Morning, George. Here we are again.
Hello.
We should,
Deja vu.
exactly, yeah. We should probably just note that we did record this in glorious sunshine at Lords yesterday, but we had a minor mishap with the audio. So this is Ask George, day three, take two. Michael Penhale says, how uncomfortable did Stokes look when taking that catch? It doesn't bode well. How many tests do you think he'll get through this summer?
Oh, look, it doesn't bode well. I mean, he says he's on track to play a full role as a bowler. There's not a lot of evidence for that. He bowled a wee bit before play. Expected him to go through 5 tests in 6 weeks. It is a lot. It looks like that knee is really, really awful. It looks desperately uncomfortable. So it's a huge worry because it's very hard to balance the side without him bowling. Now, look, I think he's worth his place as a batter. I actually think he's probably worth his place as a leader. But it's asking an awful lot of those other seamers in particular if he can't bowl, particularly if one of them's in his 40s.
Sushant says, with folks not in the Ashes squad of 16, does that mean Pope will keep if Johnny Bairstow is injured?
Not necessarily. I don't think so. No, because you could always call people up, can't you? I mean, it's if they're in Birmingham next week, they could phone up Ben Stokes. It's only 100 miles away. But actually, again, the balance of the side is such that they probably would rely on Pope. How many tests has he kept in now? 3 or 4? They probably would. But there are other options. In England, remember Sam Billings kept in a couple of tests not so long ago. There are a lot of options, but if you've got an issue with Stokes, the bowler, you're going to struggle to squeeze in a keeper like Stokes as well, I guess.
Mike Martin asks, in theory, could England have agreed to give Ireland's last man one no-appeal wicket to make up for the man out hurt?
It's a test match, yeah? I mean, yeah, in theory.
It's sort of a modern situation, isn't it?
It's a test match. No? No. I mean, in theory, yes, I suppose. But in practice, no, that would be ridiculous. It's not the village green,
Background Noise asks, does Ireland's second innings show what might be achieved if they were given more tests against major nations?
Yeah, definitely. It really does. I think that's a really fair point, that they improved as they settled into it a bit. They're only going to improve if they get more opportunities. But, they haven't had a domestic first-class season since 2019. They weren't really coming into this game with a realistic chance. So that's what they need to do. It's very obvious what they need to do. They need to play more red ball cricket, and they need to be given more opportunities at age group level, Lions level, Wolves level for them. And more tests, yeah. And not just from England, from everybody. And there are all sorts of things. The piece I wrote at the end of the second day, I think, was on things that could be done, tangible steps that could be taken to improve Ireland's performances. And, there are lots of them. And one thing could be a dispensation to allow Irish players to play the county championship again without being registered as overseas players. I mean, people quite often say to me there's not enough talent to go around. Not something that I agree with, actually. But why not then help out players from other countries? And maybe there could be a quota for players from, I don't know, Afghanistan as well. Scotland, perhaps. Well, not Scotland at the moment, but certainly from Afghanistan, from other test-playing nations who are struggling a wee bit, to give them more opportunities. I don't know, these things could be thought about, couldn't they? You could even have a situation where you added an Irish team to the county championship. I mean, the English scheduling issues would be much easier if there were 21 teams.
Background Noise also asks, with the example of James McCullum, is it time for Test cricket to allow injury substitutes?
It's a completely legitimate area of debate, I think. It is a bit inconsistent at the moment that if you have a blow to the head, you're allowed to be substituted. But what if you've got a heart problem? Just as serious, yeah? And you're not, or a liver problem or something. So there is a bit of an inconsistency there, and you don't want to do anything where someone is persuaded or carries on for the benefit of the team and actually does their long-term health a disservice. But equally, let's be realistic. If you have these regs in place, they will be exploited. I mean, I think history tells us that. And then do you start having substitutes for people who, I don't know, are what, dehydrated, a little bit unfit, maybe, cramp? I don't know where it stops. But I do think it's a legit debate, and there's a sort of duty of care towards players. You definitely don't want to be in a situation where people are hurting themselves long term, damaging their health. But, I don't think it's an easy one, but it's a bit inconsistent what we have right now.
Yeah, it's worth noting, if you haven't already seen, that McCollum was, by the sounds of it, willing to come out. He was in his moon boot, but he was padded up in the event that McBride got within one shot of his ton. He said he would go out there and help.
He was willing, and McBride said no. I mean, it sounds like he was very brave. He was on crutches in this protective moon boot in considerable pain. They're still waiting for the MRI. Well, we are still waiting to hear what the MRI scan says. He presumably might have ligament damage or something. Really painful, could be out for a long time. Was willing to come out, but he wouldn't really have been in the position to defend himself against Josh Tongue and stuff. I'm sort of glad he didn't. All that stuff about could you give them an extra opportunity and stuff. I'll say again, it is Test cricket. It is meant to be pretty hard and brutal. And as soon as you go down that route, don't know, you lose something. I thought that game lost quite a lot already, to be honest.
Last up, David Thomas asks, assuming they watched, what, if anything, did Australia learn from this game?
Such a good question. I think they will have learned a few things. I mean, they knew, I think, that England's batters were going to go for it. They know the style of cricket they're going to play. They will have been intrigued by the way Jack Leach bowled. He used fielders on the sweep really cleverly, I thought, trying to persuade the Irish batters to sweep finer than they might have been comfortable with. And he got several wickets that way. But the thing they really will have noted is how reliant England are going to be on Jack Leach. He's going to have to bowl a lot of overs, and they're going to come at him, and they're going to come at him hard. If Ben Stokes can't bowl the full sort of 15, 20 overs a day, and it seems to me terribly wishful thinking to think he could, then Leach is going to have to do that. He's going to have to bowl a lot of overs. And if they come at him, if they hit him for 8 and over, and they're going to try, then you're forced to recall Mark Wood or Jimmy Anderson or Ollie Robinson into spell after spell, and that could break them. And that's where the Ashes is going to be defined. So this is why it's so important that Ben Stokes' knee is okay. I mean, I think didn't someone ask whether he plays if he can't bowl? Was there a question to that end? I thought I saw one like that. And I actually asked him that in the presser. Is that right? Am I right, Owen? Someone asked that?
Jack Rule says, given his current condition, without being captain, would he still be in the team for the first test?
Right. So that's another. I think Jack Rule very often asks good questions, to be fair. Quite searching questions. And I asked Ben this at the end of the press conference yesterday. He actually laughed. He said, ridiculous, I think. And but is it? Is it ridiculous? I mean, he's obviously a great cricketer, a brilliant leader. There's masses to like about him. I think he's worth his place as a batter, as I say. But the team balance doesn't work if he can't bowl. It just doesn't work. And something else has to give. And given that they don't seem to want to drop Jack Crawley, which would be another possibility, push Stokes up the order. I keep reading, by the way, that Test opening is a very specialist position. It is, of course. But if I sat here and gave you a list of people who are manufactured openers who went on to have terrific careers, Katic, Boone, you could argue Trescothick and Vaughan. A lot of people became openers in their careers. Justin Langer, God's sake. There are hundreds of them. So, I think it could be done. I think he's got the technique, but unless you can find a way to squeeze him in there, and then maybe get another all-rounder like Chris Wokes or Sam Curran in, I don't really see how it holds together if he can't bowl. There's a theory that he's kind of playing with us, that he's toying with us, but he's bowled something like 17 overs in England's last 7 or 8 sessions in the field, innings in the field. Not a lot of evidence there that he's going to be able to do the role he used to be able to do. And that's really sad, because he's been he's injured himself in the service of England. But it is a worry, and Australia will have noticed this. And I will say again, I think this is where the Ashes is defined. For the first time, I'm struggling to think of a series I've done where Australia might have the stronger all-rounder. But Cameron Green looks like a cricketer who's going to have a great career to me. And Ben Stokes looks like a broken cricketer. It's not that he's lacking in class or willing, but it's very, very difficult to balance this side. And, Leach is going to be asked to do that role, and it's a massive role. Anyway, that's going to be where it's defined. Leach is a better cricketer than Australia seem to think, and he's a tougher cricketer than lots of people seem to realise. But he's got a hell of a job on his hands.
We'll leave it on that note, I think, on the Ashes. That's where we'll be next. And thanks for your questions. And yeah, we'll be back for that series, which is coming up pretty quickly.